Hello, and welcome to this special sneak peek at our Patreon exclusive show, Spiderversity. We originally recorded this episode back in 2021 in the lead up to Spider-Man No Way Home. Spiderversity is the show where Sal from Comic Pop and myself talk about everything Spider-Man, going through the movies, TV shows, all of it. If you want part 2 of this discussion, you can check out the full back catalog of Spiderversity, including discussions about Spider-Man the Animated Series, Spider-Man Unlimited, and even movies like Madam Web over at patreon.com/onlystupidanswers. Or if you're not ready to become a patron just yet, you can become a member of our YouTube channel for just $1 a month, and we'll be posting new videos of our Spiderversity back catalog every month. So those are multiple ways you can get some extra Only Stupid Answers goodness. Now, one last thing before we get started, I wanted to let you all know that my new comic, The Hellbent Complete Edition, arrives on Kickstarter tomorrow, July 2nd. It collects all 3 volumes of the Hellbent saga, plus brand new stories. So if you've been following Hellbent from the beginning, or if you're brand new to the Hellbent series, there is something for everybody in this collection. If you enjoy series like Something is Killing the Children, The Sandman, or Preacher, you're gonna love Hellbent. If you're interested, go to hellbentcomicbook.com and either sign up for our pre-launch page, or if it's after the second, back our campaign. We truly appreciate your support. Now enjoy the show. Hello everybody, welcome back to Spiderversity. This is our 3rd episode, but the 2nd movie. We are diving into possibly definitely one of the most beloved Spider-Man movies.
Easily.
Debatably the best Spider-Man movie.
Right.
Depending on where you put Spiderversity typically.
Mm-hmm. Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And Spiderversity, that's our show. Spiderverse, excuse me.
Yes.
Tipped my hand a little bit where the name came from. But with me, as always, is Sal from Comic Pop. Sal.
Hey.
Let the kids know, if they're just tuning in for the first time to our Patreon exclusive show and the 2nd movie, the series we're talking about, where can they find you?
You can come over to youtube.com/comicpop and visit our supplemental channel, Comic Pop Returns. We do in-depth discussions and analysis of your favorite trades or maybe your least favorite trades. You get really into it and have a lot of fun, too, because if you're an old reader, a new reader, lapsed reader, doesn't matter. We cater to everybody, and everybody on the couch, it's where most of our shows are shot, have different walks of life when it comes to comics. Mostly, I'm the kind of guy who knows what's up, and then everybody else is kind of just new or passively maybe sort of into comics, and so it creates these kind of fun conversations, because every comic book podcast is like, dude, so that, yeah, I know, and right, and then it's just a sea of agreeing, but no one ever asks, like, hey, how come they're doing that? Because everybody takes it for granted. And I like that my friends come in and they're just like, why are they doing this? Or where did that come from? Or why is that character like that? And I have to go into that, like, go down those divergent paths, which I appeals to me as a show, and it appeals to me as a person. So I like doing it, and hopefully you will as well. I also expect them to do this because Spider-Man 2, right? I mean, like, Spider-Man 1, everybody like loves Spider-Man 1 or grew up with it. And Spider-Man 2, it's like, along the same lines as what you described, it might be one of the best superhero movies ever made.
Yeah,
or at least considered to be.
Yeah,
right?
exactly, and it's interesting too because it's one of the rare situations where the sequel is enjoyed more or appreciated more than the first one.
Yeah.
Do you remember seeing it for the first time?
Sure do. Yes.
Tell me about it.
Vividly. I remember seeing it, I think opening night. I took a girl. She had red hair, and that was very appealing to me. And I was like, this is dope. And yeah, I just remember being like, just blown away. That trailer got me. And I actually rewatched the trailer after seeing this movie. I was like, I remember scenes or takes, and I'm like, was this in the trailer? And then I watched the trailer, I'm like, yeah. And it's really, if you go back and watch it, it's really hokey and it's really cliche, but it hyped me the hell up. And so when I saw this movie, I'm just like, it's never going to get any better than this. Like, and I was right. But
well, it is interesting because I think it primed us for obviously you don't get the MCU movies without Spider-Man, the Sam Raimi Spider-Man franchise.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? It's the lineage is Blade, then X-Men, and then Spider-Man. And by the time we got to Sam Raimi Spider-Man, like, oh, we figured this out. We've kind of like cracked the code. Although it is interesting, I was thinking about this movie and how kind of like the Spider-Man franchises after this one with Amazing and Homecoming ended up following other franchises lead. Like Amazing was like, what if Dark Knight though? And then and then they realized a little bit too late, like, oh, that was just the wrong call for this character. Yeah. And then it became like, well, what if the Iron Man movies? And you know what I mean? Like MCU.
Oh no, yeah. Well, that's Hollywood to a T, right? Like they go with what works, and they are like, well, that's the formula, or that's the trend, that's where we're going with the genre. We got to follow that, or we got to do like, what if Dark Knight but this? Like that's the speak that they use. Without Raimi, there is no direction. It's just after Spider-Man 2, it's just a series of diminishing returns for cinematic Spider-Man for a long time, and kind of bafflingly so because they engineered the formula. But it's funny that I don't think that Spider-Man 2 succeeds because it pioneers or readapts or challenges the formula of the superhero movie as much as it's Sam Raimi's movie, and without him, you know, you need a really clear narrative vision from a creative.
Yeah, and it is really because, and I think you're right to say this almost baffling, because it's interesting that a franchise that was the trendsetter then ended up following other trends. It's like, but you're right. This is so distinctly because there's this, and we're going to get into it. We're getting a little bit of ahead of ourselves in how Raimi's obviously I talked a little bit last week about his use of motion in the movie, but also I think there's a heavily influenced, like almost a Looney Tunes cartoon aesthetic that really lends itself to this material. But there's also a shit ton of heart. There's so much fucking heart in this movie.
Yes. Yeah. This is Raimi unhinged also. Like he is just going for it. You could tell, like, you know, we made hundreds of millions of dollars the last one. It's a beloved franchise now. We know what we're doing, and we trust Raimi. Go for it. And I'm amazed at. It's funny because, like I said, it's unrestrained, but there's also a lot of restraint in the story. It's so budgeted well. Like, it's just one villain, one plot, no other nonsense, no franchise setting up. Like, it's really refreshingly clean of all the garbage, and it's able to then like indulge in its own ridiculousness, like we can spend a good 2 minutes on Bruce Campbell as the snooty usher.
Yes, we can. Yeah, and the one, and we'll get to it later, there is one scene at the end that is kind of like, hey, down the line, next movie, stay tuned for this. But it's also paying off something from the previous movie. Yep. But now we're in an age where, like, what if that was the whole movie? What if setting up the next movie was the whole movie? Which, to be fair, is taken directly from the comics, because every event is setting up the next event, and it's never.
It's never just about whatever you're reading at the time. Which is a shame.
So let's all this talk. Let's get into the movie itself. The synopsis, according to our friends over at IMDb, is Peter Parker is beset with troubles in his failing personal life as he battles a brilliant scientist named Dr. Otto Octavius. Rotten Tomatoes score is 93%, with an audience score of 82%. Ooh, those are tight numbers.
Yeah, I'm shocked it's that low for audience scores because of how beloved this is by the fans.
Well, you got to remember, there are also, I think Rotten Tomatoes comes post this movie, and we do live in a generation that anything made after the 80s and before the 2010s is boo, don't like it.
True. Yes.
And the critics' consensus is boasting an entertaining villain and a deeper emotional focus. This is a nimble sequel that improves upon the original. Of course, like we said, it's directed by Sam Raimi, written by Alvin Sargent, who's also known for Ordinary People, Paper Moon, and What About Bob? And maybe I'm undercutting my film cred, but I only know of one of those movies.
Well, I do vividly remember that. Yes.
Yeah. And it has a story credit by Alfred Go and Miles Miller, who superhero fans will remember from Smallville, which I was for some reason in my brain, Spider-Man the movie happens and then Smallville happens, but Smallville started in 2001.
Right? No, Smallville came and you were just like, okay, this is the new standard for superhero in like TV, and then Raimi's like, no.
Yeah. And so it's just wild to me that because it's just there's so much Spider-Man embedded into Smallville, like the high school setting, the dealing with the powers and responsibility, all that stuff, that I just assumed that they were following the Spider-Man train. It's like, no, they were actually ahead of the curve. And there's also a story by credit of Michael Chabon, who is known for John Carter and Picard. And it's interesting to me that after John Carter, it's just Hollywood likes to help its friends out.
I guess so. By the way, I will say I dug John Carter. Like, I saw that in the theaters, and I was so glad I did, because I'm like, we're like a good hour and a half into the movie, which means we're only a third of the way through, and I'm like, and I'm just watching on this big screen, and I'm seeing it in stadium theater, and I'm like, there's no way that this movie's gonna make any money.
There's no way this is gonna happen. I have not, and I should say, I have not seen John Carter.
Oh man, the time to see it was in theaters.
I missed
on TV. It's gonna be like, that's stupid, but like, because it's such an old, it's like seeing Indiana Jones in a classic theater.
Yeah.
Where it's like, wow, that's how it's supposed to be seen. John Carter is one of those movies where it's like, we plucked it from the 30s and we polished it with CG and we made this thing. And it's like, wow, I can't believe you did this. Why did you do this? And it's like, because Disney didn't buy all these franchises yet.
Exactly. And so, and I guess, so I got to say, I just know from what I saw of Picard, which I overall enjoyed. Picard's fine. And then the response to John Carter, it's like, we keep giving this guy a lot of money to do stuff. That's interesting to me. Anyway, neither here nor there.
I agree with you.
So we open the movie with an updated version of the credits from the previous one, but one very key update is that we have Alex Ross paintings that depict scenes from the previous movie to kind of catch audience members up. For them, just anybody coming in fresh or lapsed on it. And I think this is something we should bring this back. This is 100%. Especially with as complicated as our franchises have gotten, like this, I bring back opening credits and have them like, hey, by the way, a movie that desperately needed this, like a previously on, is the new Halloween movie, Halloween Kills. It expects you to have like an encyclopedic memory of the previous movie. And it's like, oof, sure don't.
They also needed to, in that movie, show the posters for the movies that it's throwing away and like burning them so that you knew which continuities they were not addressed. Because it's like, oh, Mike Myers is not Jamie Lee Curtis's brother anymore. And they're like, oh no, we're throwing that away. What are we keeping? And it's like, oh, just the first one and then the last one.
Yes. Yeah. They should, instead of all the pumpkins in the opening sequence, it should have been those posters for the previous movies.
Yeah, just burning. Just, no, we're not doing that or this.
And then it adds new scenes to the first one. And I love the first one, but I clearly don't remember it as well as this movie wanted me to, because I was like, is this... Wait a second. And then I went back and revisited it, and I was like, oh, but the ending of that movie is perfect. Don't rewrite that ending. That's a perfect... Anyway, whatever.
Yeah. No, Halloween Kill sucks.
Yeah, but it's really bad.
But that Alex Ross thing, you're totally right. Great point. I wish they'd bring it back. And I remember the fanfare about it, and I was just like... And it was just pitch perfect. Great musical score. Love it. Just everything about that opening was brilliant. And all dovetails into another Who Am I? Rhetorical question I didn't ask. I'm like, do we need this anymore? We're doing it again. The
voiceover, the opening,
voiceover.
Like, yeah, exactly. We bring it back. Fortunately, it doesn't come back in at the end, so it feels more like a hey, remember the previous one? Anyway, but it does open up with that shot of MJ on the billboard, and I like the way they use, especially in this opening act, the way they use that billboard of MJ to just pummel Peter. Just that billboard's just there to slap Peter in the face every lowest moment.
Yep, absolutely. I love it. No, it's so great. This movie is so well constructed. Just visual metaphors or deliberate imagery that just like reinforces what the lesson is and what the journey is going to be.
Yeah. And so we open with not with Peter doing crazy Spider-Man stuff. No, because this movie really understands what makes Peter Parker work as a character, and the Spider-Man stuff is cool, but it's not that. And so he's a pizza delivery guy working for Asif Manvi, who people may know from The Daily Show, and he plays Mr. Aziz. And we immediately dive into like the power, responsibility, the fact that Peter Parker is Spider-Man literally ruins every other aspect of his life.
Yes.
So Asif Manvi is like, listen, we've got a 20 minutes or less guarantee. Yeah, I'm about ready to fire you. You need to get these pizzas. And one thing I love about, obviously, I love this scene, but one thing I really noticed this time is how epic the music is he's trying to get these pizzas there on time. Like
that delighted me in the theater. I was just like, oh my god, like the stakes had never been higher.
and I like that. He's on his little moped trying to get there, and he almost gets pancaked by a bus. Which what's plastered on the side of the bus? MJ's face.
Yep.
He decides he's going to be Spider-Man. He's going to web these there, which...
this is the thing. This is one of those things, forgive me, it's just, this is one of those things where, you're a brilliant filmmaker. You just showed what Peter needs to do for the whole movie right here, where it's like, Peter, throughout the whole movie, is like, I'm Spider-Man, and I'm going to be really dickish about how I have to be Spider-Man, and I want to be Peter Parker, but I think it's either one or the other. But he also wants to have his cake and eat it too, and he doesn't want to like acknowledge that like being Spider-Man is what makes him good or better.
Yeah.
And it's when he embraces being Spider-Man to achieve the goal of delivering pizzas that he's successful.
Yes.
It's him keeping up this charade of like the crappy moped that's slower than web slinging and more dangerous, and him looking like a goober and all of that. Like when he is swinging with the pizzas, that is, and everything. He doesn't lose his powers. He's moving really quickly. He's able to even achieve one whole slice back from a guy. Like he can do it all.
I would not eat that slice.
I would not eat that slice. No. But if he marries those two halves of himself and just embraces it, he can achieve wonders. And it's just something he does unconsciously, but he never does it deliberately until the end of the movie.
I think that's a really incredible point, too, because I think that's, again, part of the appeal of the character is, I know I found myself in positions where in your mind, you've created this block or this barricade that is, you've invented, that it doesn't, it doesn't need to be either or, it can be both. So he starts the web swing. I love the little bit like he stole that guy's pizzas, which that actor is Donnell Rawlings, who people might recognize from Chappelle's Show or Soul. He voiced the character in Soul. Yeah. And then we get a recurring thing that happens in this movie that makes me think that New York, at least in this universe, is basically a fucking hellscape because these two kids chase a ball into the street and are going to get pancaked by a truck that is going incredibly fast, which I didn't spend a lot of time in New York City, but I was never on a street where anything could move as quickly as that truck is moving.
Every vehicle in this ficticious New York City has plenty of space to be able to go fast and weave around. No.
So these kids are about ready to get flattened. Spider-Man saves them, gives them some advice of don't play in the streets.
Advice.
Yep. Yeah. And he goes and he gets the pizza, and like you said, he saves the one slice. I do want to see like somebody, he webs the slice from a guy that's about to eat it. I would have loved that, like in the boardroom or wherever, like somebody opens a box and pulls the slice and it looks like sperm's dripping off. Like
and he's like, we didn't pay for these, did we? Yeah. No, don't worry, I took care of that.
I took care of that. It says Emily Deschanel from Bones.
Is that who that is?
That is who that is. Zoe Deschanel's sister.
She's so familiar looking. I was like, who is this?
Because not only does she look like the lady from Bones, she also looks like Zoe Deschanel, her sister.
Yes.
So he gets there, and classic line, it's pizza time.
Pizza time. Raimi memes. Everybody loves pizza time.
The voice of a generation.
I remember as a kid seeing that whole sequence, and the thing that made me laugh the most was the amount of time Raimi spends on him trying to put those brooms and mops back into the closet.
Yes.
It's excruciating now, but at the time I was like, I love it. And each time you think he's got it, another one falls, and I'm like, oh my God, how much longer are we going to spend trying to get out of this closet? Like, he would have been on time if he didn't do all that.
If if he's like, I'm going to work with these brooms later. But again, it just goes back to this, there's not a moment in this movie where the universe is not dunking on Peter Parker. Like,
Yep, literally. Everybody, there's only a few people that don't, and no, that's not true, because even Aunt May does eventually. So everybody.
The entire universe. The one constant in the universe of Spider-Man 2 is that the universe hates Peter Parker.
Right.
So he's late by like minutes, right? Like he's only like minutes late, and she's like, I'm not going to pay for those.
Yep.
And now we get to, with all the like, that opening is fun. Obviously the music's epic, but the stakes are relatively low. I guess that's not true because it's important to Peter's life. But here's where we get to like the kind of like that fulcrum between fun and serious, where Mr. Aziz looks at him and says, I know that a promise means nothing to you. That delivery is a promise. I know a promise means nothing to you. And again, I think as a young person, as a teenager watching these movies, reading Spider-Man comics, that feeling is almost at operatic levels when you're a teen, of that feeling of like, man, if you only knew all the stuff I got going on, you wouldn't even, Mom and Dad, if you even knew the stuff I was going on, you get off my case about the homework if you even knew.
Right.
And it taps into that feeling.
Definitely. And of course, reinforced with him ripping the sticker off his helmet.
Love it. And I love that it doesn't come off clean. Like
I know.
Like it rips partial. I'm like, that's a great detail, because
ruined your helmet.
Yeah. If anybody's ever tried to take a sticker off anything, knows how that works.
Oh yeah. No, that was a real sticker. It was fantastic. I love that.
So then we get into, and again, just like the last movie was really economical, this one is as well. We have that moment of this basically shows that Peter's life is kind of a mess, but now we touch back in basically on all the elements from the previous film and see where stuff is. So we get to JJ at the Daily Bugle, and Peter's trying to give him like slice of life.
Yeah.
Human interest photos. J.K. Simmons isn't having any of that. Of course, he's wonderful.
Yep.
Peter's like, you've turned the city against Spider-Man, and J. Jonah Jameson's like, a fact I'm proud of.
Yes.
So he sells JJ pictures of Spider-Man. Peter goes to sell those photos, and Betty tells him that they won't cover the advance he has. Again, we're just like, shit's not going great for Peter.
No, but like, and it's indicative. See, I have a real problem with Peter in this movie, and it's a testament to the fact that he's a real character.
Yeah.
But he's a real piece of shit, and I don't want to deal with him. And it's funny because like this is just another element of it where he's like he's not afraid to inconvenience or lean on literally every other aspect of his life, but he's not willing to challenge himself enough to actually like break out of his comfort zone.
Yeah.
So in this case, like Betty Brant keeps her job, but by the grace of God, because her boss is J. Jonah Jameson.
Yes.
And you can tell in the subtext of that scene, like she gave him an advance. Like she did it. And he's like, here's my thing. I forgot that you paid me already for something I didn't even do.
Yeah.
Right? And that is just the tip of the iceberg for why I think Peter is just such a scumbag in this movie.
Yeah.
Eventually, I think I don't know if he ever really breaks out of it, but like, I think people misunderstand like my love-hate relationship with this movie, because I do love this movie and I think it's a perfect example of like a superhero cinema. But Peter really I would never be friends with this character because I hate this guy. Like, and he's really selfish. Like,
yeah, he is really selfish. And there's something we established in the previous movie, and I do think it's and I think we'll get into this more in the next movie, Spider-Man 3, because I know some people like don't like it because of how selfish Peter is in that movie, and it's one of those like, but this version of Peter has always been selfish.
Yes.
And I would argue that obviously it depends on the writer, but in the comics, especially younger Peter, that's kind of why the whole responsibility struggle is a struggle for him.
Yeah.
And I think it is relatable because all young people are kind of selfish. Like our entire arcs as young people is learning to like, hey, there are other people out there.
There are other
dealing
people,
with
yeah.
other shit.
No, we're egocentric.
Maybe lay off it a little bit. And I think the best people learn that lesson, and the worst people don't.
That's exactly.
And so we go from the Daily Bugle to Peter at college, and it turns out college is just as fucking shitty for Peter as high school was, but more in a more worldly way. Whereas the torment Peter experiences in high school is more directed at him.
Yes.
The college torment is more ambivalent. It just doesn't care about him.
That's what's so great. Is like it is a great encapsulation of the difference between high school and college. In high school, everybody just wants to step on you. In college, no one cares about you.
I know. They're all doing their own things. And this is where we meet Dylan Baker as Dr. Connors.
Robbed.
robbed. And Dylan Baker is so great. I remember seeing him. I think the next time he's been in a bunch of stuff, but I think the next time I saw him after this was in The Americans, where he's also fantastic in that. Ooh. And if you've ever seen The Americans, FX Americans, incredible show. Very dark, heavy show. So just know that going in. Anyway, Dylan Baker's great, and he's very like. He's very teacherly in this, very, very cutting. I like the line that, like, I'm trying to be here, and he's like, then be here. Like, what? What do you mean you're trying?
Right.
Like,
I don't understand. You're speaking in code.
Yeah.
It actually killed me when he said to Mr. Aziz that there was a disturbance, and I'm like, what is that? What a dumb thing to say. It's so weird. It's such a weird way to say that. Like there was a disturbance. Just say I was in the way, or like there was a problem.
Yeah.
But like,
I got hit by a car.
But he keeps saying this crap, and like everyone's just kind of like, what? And I love, Baker is just the understatement of him being handicapped, having one arm.
Yes.
They tell, they don't show, they don't tell.
Yep. 100%. Right? And I want to say, I don't know if because I don't know about you. After the first movie, I was actually kind of the beginning of what ended up being this shit. I ended up like plugging into like literally every morsel I could get for Spider-Man 2, like who's the villain going to be, who's the da-da-da. And I want to say early on the talk was that it was going to be Doc Ock and the Lizard. And I think it was good that they didn't if for no other reason. Like I think the Spider-Man the MCU Spider-Man movies juggle multiple villains well because they're all part of the same thing. They've all got there's the one guy and then his underlings, and if you try to do Doc Ock and Doc Ock and Lizard, those two characters have two very different things going on.
They got two different motivations. They would never team up. It would look really hokey. You'll see what two villains that have nothing to do with each other teaming up looks like.
Yes.
And you're just gonna Batman Forever it, and like just don't do that. Like Ock needs the space.
I'm also going to be honest with you. I don't think Lizard would have looked very good back.
Not back then.
No, not back then. Unless you wanted to spend like Jurassic Park money on that dude.
Oh, or if they could have. Because here's the thing, like if they could have used like the Velociraptor puppets in conjunction with ILM, that would have looked pretty awesome. But he probably would
pretty cool.
He probably would have looked like a dinosaur though. Like there's no
he
way
would have
they
looked like a dinosaur.
Like a dinosaur.
I will say that might have integrated better because the big thing with Doc Connors is that what's that formula that takes away powers? You could have incorporated that into this, and I think that because the one thing that always sticks out to me is like, I get what you're doing with Peter's losing his powers. It is a little strange.
It's and what's funny is later on I remember people talking about like, and here's the part of the superhero movie where the hero has to lose his powers, and I'm like, that's a thing? I just thought it was a thing in Spider-Man 2, but apparently like it is a thing.
Well, and it's also, you mentioned in the previous movie how they were positioning Spider-Man as their Superman.
Yes.
And this is, Superman 2, he loses his powers, and so this is
right?
kind
That's
of
true.
that.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And it is interesting how superhero movies continue to revisit the Richard Donner Superman is like the text of superhero movies, because even Dark Knight, which is very tonally incredibly different, when it came to casting its supporting characters, they looked at how the Superman filled out its supporting cast with a lot of really great, well-known actors.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, and I think Kevin Feige's on record saying like every Marvel movie we do, we make sure they watch Superman first. I'm like, that's probably bullshit, but okay, whatever.
No, they don't. You are such a liar. Also, I'm glad they don't, because like, I love Superman. It's also like really boring.
Yeah, it's very much of its time. That's not. I know we like to visit the Christopher Reeve Superman a lot. That's not my Superman. If I'm being candid, the Superman I have in my brain has yet to be realized on the big screen.
Yeah,
but we'll get there. And elements of it, I think, if you threw them all into a blender, you'd get like, Superman. But
Yeah.
That's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about Superman. Spider-Man, gosh dang it.
But villains, yes, and how you heard the rumor that there was going to be a Lizard and Ock and stuff like that. I'm so glad they didn't do that.
Yeah, they just stick with Ock. And speaking of which, Peter tells Dr. Connors he's planning on writing a paper on Octavius, and Dylan Baker is like, hey, that guy's a friend of mine, so don't fuck it up.
Yep.
Dipshit.
Genius. And yet, he's really harsh with Peter, but you know that behind the scenes, it's like when Jonah gives Peter a hard time in the first one, and then he doesn't tell Green Goblin who he is. In this, he's like, Parker, do the work. Quit being a weirdo. And then when he sets up the meeting with Octavius, but also tells him like, hey, listen, this kid's brilliant and lazy, so please like kick his ass for me. Like, give him a hard time, but like we're gonna good cop, bad cop, and I'm gonna be a bad cop, you be the good cop, but like get this kid on track. I really like that.
So then Peter comes home to find a surprise party for a birthday that he totally forgot he had, which
I love that.
If you've ever been like that is a special kind of busy when you're like, oh shit, it's my birthday.
That's a Peter Parker thing. That is in the comics. I love it, and I also love that only 3 people are there. It's the 3 people in my life are at this party.
100%.
Love that.
So like you said, MJ and Harry are there. We get updates on all the characters, on where they're at.
Genius.
MJ's in her play. Harry's running Oscorp, and still he's trying to be low-key about it and doing a very bad job of the fact that he does not like Spider-Man and does not like the fact that Peter's taking pictures of Spider-Man.
Yep.
Which is it's something we didn't get a chance to really touch on in the previous movie, so I'm glad we spent time with it here.
Yeah.
And that's a great bit of I like the easy continuity in these movies. Like it's not like necessarily world building or mythology building. It's just we're paying attention to what we did before and what we're doing now.
Well, and deepening it too. They don't just like this whole movie is just it's basically Spider-Man 1 again, but deeper. Like just adding more to it. Like this is where they went, and it's like it's a true continuation. It's a real sequel. You don't need to even see the first movie, but like if you do, you're being rewarded.
Which is something I feel like I'm a big fan of, and it's not that it's easy or whatever, but even when you're watching a TV show, like I remember the first episode of Breaking Bad I watched was 1 minute, which is like the middle of season 3.
Okay.
And that one episode gave me everything I needed to understand what was going on, and I was hooked, and I went back and I watched everything.
Yeah.
And so it's something I miss. I think like the top tier storytelling is when like, this could be the 3rd movie or the 1st movie or the 5th movie, but you can come in, know the basics, and we're off to the races.
Totally.
So we learned that Aunt May is after the party. Aunt May is behind the mortgage. Again, Rosemary Harris is the secret weapon in these movies because this is a very real. Anybody that's maybe interacted with a parent or a grandparent that's on hard times and they want to give you money and you're trying to do the right thing, when she's like, "You will take this money," and it's like,
yeah. Oh, her line, "For God's sake, it's not much." And she knows it is. Like, it's not much. It shouldn't be much, but it really is. Like, I know it's going to make a difference for you, and it would make a difference for me, but it's not a lot of money. Oh, yeah, no, heartbreaking. She's
heartbreaking, and she just really delivers the hell out of it.
Yep.
Peter goes outside to take out the trash in an echo of the first film.
Yep.
But this time MJ's out there waiting for him.
Yeah.
There are mountains of romantic tension between these two. And MJ admits that she's been Peter's fucking it up because he's fucking it up.
Yep.
She admits that she's seeing someone, and then Peter commits to coming to see MJ's play. Just the first of many times that Peter's sending wildly mixed signals.
Here is where the term toxic masculinity, I think, comes in, or at the very least, Peter's behavior is inexcusable.
Yeah.
Because he's made a decision at the end of the first movie. I'm not going to be with Mary Jane. She's thrown herself at me, and I'm like, nope, if my enemies get a hold of my identity, she'll be at risk. I can't do that Green Goblin scene again. We're not doing it. And so what does he do? He then, like, he's like, oh, I love you. He doesn't say it, but he's like, oh. In fact, Peter never says I love you in this entire movie, which is really effing weird. Really bothers me. We'll get to that, but
that's right, because that's I'm excited to talk about that scene at the end because there's a scene between Peter and MJ that's just really strange.
It's like what the hell happened? What is this movie? But they get to the scene. She's like, I want you, and he's like, nope, sorry. And then she's like, well, I'm seeing somebody. He's like, I'm gonna see your play. We sabotage it.
Yeah.
Like,
I listen, because of responsibility, I can't see you, but I don't want you seeing anybody
exactly.
else.
Well, I don't want to see you moving on. What the hell is that? Yes. And then he has the audacity later to admit, he's like, I don't even know if I have a girlfriend. Bitch, you don't.
Yeah, you sure don't at all.
You don't. You don't have a girlfriend. And
it's not complicated. You don't have anything.
It's not complicated. If you think you do have a girlfriend, you're fucked up. You got a problem.
You got to work some shit out, which, let's be honest, Peter does have some shit he needs to work out.
I mean, dude's never dated. He's never even, like, kissed a girl before outside of, like, Upside Down in the Rain. He has no idea what he's doing. Yeah.
So,
you know.
I mean, every Marvel hero except give or take a Captain America could see somebody. She would probably be seeing somebody.
Yes.
Why don't we have that? We have night nurse. Why don't we have like night psychologists, night therapists that they all go see?
There is that. We do get that in Falcon Winter Soldier at the very least, but she's a terrible therapist.
She is very bad at it, but we do get it. And honestly, if there was a therapist to the entire Marvel universe, they would definitely have a drinking problem.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's a good idea. Oh, that's a good pitch.
We're going to pitch that after the show. Don't take it. We got to pitch it to Marvel. And then we get to the Peter. I love how compared to the loft that Peter and Harry had in Spider-Man 1, just the absolute piece of shit apartment that he has. And
hallway bathroom.
And then we meet Mr. Dickovich and his daughter, and we meet him playing poker with Louis Lombardi, who's a supporting character in Sopranos and 24. And this is the one scene he shows up in.
Right? How weird. By the way, eagle-eyed fans, I was like, who is this guy? He looks so distinct. He is the pilot in Air Force One.
Wild.
Like, not the
Mr.
good
Dickovich?
pilot. Mr. Dickovich is one of Gary Oldman's underlings who flies the plane in Air Force One.
Oh, man. And he just really captures that shitty. I've only once had I've had a bunch of landlords in my life, and only one of them was any good at their job. And Mr. Dickovich really captures that shitty landlord energy.
Yeah. Just yelling rent.
Yes.
And Ursula, a character I don't understand, and I don't know why she's in the movie.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
We'll get into that more. There's one, the cake scene.
Yeah, the cake scene is just
baffles me.
Completely. I was like, what is happening?
Yeah.
Like, what is your obsession with this actor? Because clearly you like her a lot because she's so weirdly distinct and I've never seen her in anything.
Yeah.
What the hell is happening? Anyway, but yes, it's also cute, like, because I remember me and my nerd friends are seeing this movie, and we're like, "Is that Gwen? Are they undoing?
Same.
Are they changing Gwen?" And it's like, "Nope, it's Ursula Dickovich."
Yeah, which is fine. That didn't need to be Gwen. There's another lady later that everybody was convinced was also Gwen. Yeah. And it's like, y'all need to wait. Spider-Man 3 is when we're going to be getting everybody's favorite Gwen Stacy.
Yeah.
So we learned that at the party that Oscar was financing Otto Octavius' newest experiment.
Yep.
And so Harry makes the connection between Peter and Otto.
Yeah.
And Harry, in this introduction, is a lot. Post his dad dying, he's gone full trust fund douchebag.
I was gonna say he's gone full James Franco, because this is where he actually, because James Franco is like acting, he's like freaks and geeksing in the first movie. Like,
yes,
he's just like, oh, I'm just happy to be in a movie. It's big. I'm really excited. In this one, he's like, okay, now you know who I am, ladies and gentlemen, James Franco.
Yeah.
I mean, like, yes, it back then I thought it was acting. I thought it was just Harry Osborn went full trust fund, but like. No, seeing James Franco and everything else, I'm like, okay, yeah, no, this is just you're friends with Raimi now.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And I really think it works here. And this is where Otto remarks that Connors has told Otto about Peter. Yeah. And this is where we get the line "brilliant but lazy," which is another like, son of a bitch, if you fucking knew what I do every day, you fucking asshole.
Right.
Anyway,
but they're not wrong, Peter. Like, that's the thing, is that, like, you know, Peter doesn't, and I like how we are annoyed, but like Peter isn't. He's like, yeah, you'd get that. Yeah, you know what? Like, I'm not lazy, but like, I'm bad at it.
Yeah, and it's also interesting too that I think this is what kind of helps alleviate some of his shittiness with MJ is he is trying. I mean, he's shitty at it, but he's trying, and he's not like
he like
and
thinks
he's not
he's trying. He's like going through the motions. Like he doesn't know what trying is because he's like, the only thing he's trying at is when he's trying to actively undo Mary Jane's relationship. So that let's follow your logic, Peter. Let's say that you do go to the play, you make it on time, she's thrilled to see you, you guys have a conversation, maybe you get that chow mein, you're talking to each other, and then all of a sudden she's like, you know, by the way, I'm effing in love with you and let's be together. And he's like, oh, sorry. What the hell is she supposed to think?
Don't worry, we'll get scenes like that. Anyway,
yes.
So Otto goes into his intelligence as a gift speech, and this is a great moment to point out. Alfred Molina is so fucking good in this. Like, he's so
great.
All the aspects of it, like, and there's a couple we'll get into later. He has a couple of those like cheesy villain one-liners.
Yeah,
but he just expertly delivers them. Like, it really feels like natural in what he would say in this moment, and he looks cool as fuck saying it. He's just such a great right here in this moment, like a great warm father figure. This is where we get again, like, Peter's always kind of like trying to find a father figure. Like, he was basically raised by a grandpa. Willem Dafoe's Norman Osborn tried to fill that role, and I think Peter very smartly, even before the finale, was like,
Nah.
Nah,
I see.
okay.
I see what you're like as a real father. I'm gonna pass.
Yes. Yeah, I'm going to pass on that. Anyway, so Otto and Peter hit it off. We meet Otto's wife, Rosie, and Rosie asks if Peter has a girlfriend, which I know as a young person, I always hated that question.
Oh yeah, no, it's a natural line. It's a great line. It's also like, but Peter's reaction is just like, ugh.
Yeah, it's like,
I don't really know.
You do. You do know.
Yeah, you do know. And the answer is no.
You don't.
If you want to get into it, it's like, listen, Rosie, you want to get into this? Because, like, the answer is no, but let me tell you why.
Yeah.
Like, that would be a conversation.
So Otto says if you want a woman to fall in love with you, feed her poetry, because while Otto's a science guy, Rosie is an arts person, which is also a pretty good mirror of Peter and MJ.
Yeah, that's true.
Although, again, I got to go back to, and I'm just super bummed that later movies kind of get rid of Peter as a photographer, because I really relate to that artistic outlet for him. Like, he's a science person, but he takes his photography seriously. He likes it. He's good at it.
Right.
Inexplicably good at it, considering he's taking pictures of himself in motion, but whatever.
Yeah. Well, it's because of all the criticism he gets. Like, he nails those Spider-Man shots, like 1 out of every 25 shots, and then people are like, you're a terrible photographer. So he's like, all right, well, I have this camera. I need to learn. And so he gets into it and finds that he likes it. And I'm like, I kind of dig that.
Yeah, I like that element to the character. But anyway, and we also get the bit where Peter's reading poetry in the laundromat. And I love, and again, we talked about it before in the previous movie, but the little humanizing moments, the little like relatable human moments. But I love that, like, he's washing his costume and it's stained all his underpants. And it's like, again, the universe will not miss an opportunity to just shit all over.
Oh no,
Peter's parade.
If there's a scene with Peter Parker, he has to fail or lose in that scene. And it's like, I kind of appreciate the attention to detail and the effort that Raimi and company are making to ensure that happens every scene.
Yep.
I want to go back to that, like, Rosie Ock scene, only because it always made me cringe. I hate this. I love this scene, and I hate how deliberately bland and, like, it fill in the blank it is, where she's like, I met him on the college steps. What college? What university? Nobody says that. But you need to say it's the college steps because it's like this amorphous origin story for your love. And then it goes even further. I was explaining the theory of relativity.
Yeah.
The most basic scientific formula that everyone would understand, a nerd would know. And Rosie was trying to explain T.S. Eliot. And what is it, dueling like lectures? Are they both explaining at the same time? Is one trying to explain it to the other? It'd be cacophonous. Wouldn't make any sense. And it's just like, I know what they're doing. It's just, it made me like, I'm like, you're not going to lose your kind of like evergreen nature of the movie if you get into specifics.
Yeah.
But it just drove me nuts. And I never get tired of being like, the scene.
And it's interesting too, because I always had mixed feelings about, like, the Spider-Man 1 nailed, like, that's Green Goblin from the comics, his origin, that's the bit. With this one, we introduce Rosie, and it's like, and Otto's that's like new. A nice guy before it happens. It's like, well, that's not Otto, that's not Doc Ock.
Nope. And yet nobody complained. Nobody was like, what the hell? Ock was always a jerk.
Yes.
And his romantic entanglements are few and far between, let's say.
Unless it's on May.
Right.
Unless it's on May.
Yeah, which is like, that would have been a fun element to explore, but it's like, that's a movie that Ock courting Aunt May in this movie is like, they're 10 years off. 10 years later, if this movie were made, they would have done that.
Yeah. Definitely. That would have been actually really interesting, especially now you got Marissa Tomei, and literally the one bit they have with Marissa Tomei as Aunt May is that, she's a hot aunt. She's hot. That's the bit. Anyway.
She's also a brilliant actor and has an Academy Award, but whatever.
You know what I mean? Let's not use any of those skills.
No, but didn't you see The Wrestler? Oh,
I mean, she's really fucking hot in The Wrestler. I mean,
look,
they're not wrong. They're not wrong.
She's hot in My Cousin Vinny. Like, she's hot in everything she's in. I get it.
God, she's so good in My Cousin Vinny. Anyway.
Oh, my God. Yes. Anyway. Yes.
Which, by the way, why don't we get
clothes.
Joe Pesci to be Uncle Ben? But anyway.
I love that pitch.
Yeah.
I love that pitch.
So Peter gets ready to go to MJ's play. I love the shot where you've got, and again, it's just a perfect visual encapsulation of what this movie's about. He's got his dress suit on one side and the Spider-Man suit on the other. And seeing it there loose on the hanger. It really does look uncomfortable. It's like, yeah, that suit probably fucking sucks to wear. But anyway.
Oh yeah. No, you see that suit a lot, like without a person in it, and it looks terrible. Every
It
time.
looks like 3 sizes too small. Like it's like.
And by the way, like you don't need to use the real suit. Like it's a prop. You could make it look like it's made of cloth or looser or something like that. Like they could have made it bigger. I don't know.
Anyway,
it's just it's theater of the mind.
Exactly. So you know, we get a little clip of MJ's excited that Peter's coming. You never know who's coming. She says to her friend.
She's so good in this movie. Can you say that?
Very true. Very true. And again, little moments like Peter buys flowers and they stop by the florist and they take a bunch of flowers away.
Love that. Yes.
And again, going back to the fact that this New York is a fucking hellscape. Independent of Peter being Spider-Man, he's just a dude on his moped, almost gets pancaked by robbers mid-robbery on the run, and the cop car crashes. And I love this. This is Raimi directing perfection. The way the car's flying, everybody ducks, pause, they get up, look of awe, reverse angle, the car's on the web. You get the close-up shot of the woman like it's Spider-Man. Fucking rules. It's just brilliant.
All the loud noises of it crashing and the glass shattering, and then just nothing.
Yep.
And then the theme.
Yep. It's perfect. It's just and again, it's that like level of it. It's not like it's great because of the intent behind it. It's just like even in something like this, we're paying attention to what we're doing and the visual storytelling that we're trying to convey. Yep. Anyway, Peter's chasing after robbers. We get cool moments like he literally like maneuvers between a truck and its tractor trailer. Which is fucking great.
That's in the trailer. It was so good. The special effects department is firing on all cylinders when it comes to Spider-Manning in this movie. I distinctly remember like at least 4 shots that are pure CG of Spider-Man doing stuff, and that is one of them.
Yep.
And it's just like,
great stuff. So he stops the robbers, but he pulls up to the theater in the the car they stole. And I love that cop's like, "Hey man, you parked there, I'm towing." And this is a great moment for Tobey Maguire where he like processes it, and then he's like, "What? Fuck off! I don't give a shit."
Right.
Like,
okay, good.
You're gonna have to anyway. Fuck off.
Right? Yeah. Whatever.
And then we get one of these iconic Bruce Campbell scenes, and the comic timing in it is great, where he's like, "You got a shoelace." And then he's like, adjust your tie. Can I help you?
Can I help you? Yeah. Now that you look presentable, I'm not letting you in here.
I'm not letting you in here. We've got to maintain the illusion. And I've always had the same question. Like, does this play not have an intermission?
That's what I thought today. Like, literally last night when I'm watching it, I'm like, no intermission?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, and what's funny is, I wonder if I didn't put this together, but I wonder if every Peter Parker problem could have been resolved if he had reconciled the two halves of himself, because there's no way Spider-Man could not have crawled through a window and snuck into a bathroom and then arrived in the theater. Like you're stonewalled as Peter Parker, I get that, but Spider-Man can get into this theater. And it's like, I wonder if every single problem, because you think of it like if you're watching this movie, you're watching the protagonist, you're putting yourself in their shoes, you're thinking about how you'd get out of this problem, and it's just like he would. I wonder if all of them are like that, where it's like Peter just doesn't think of that. Yeah,
he's just not. He's just because again,
he's like, I'm Peter Parker right now. I'm not Spider-Man.
Well, again, and I think maybe that comes into that mental block in his brain that Spider-Man is a burden. You know what I mean? As opposed to thinking of also a tool, like a really fucking cool tool that you have.
Right. Like you delivered pizzas yesterday in the suit. You can't get in here?
How cool would it have been if he, like you said, he snuck in, but like, and he shows up like backstage. Like we see later the guy that's trying to help MJ with his line, like that probably would have blown MJ's socks off if he showed up backstage. Like, hey, I'm here.
Yeah.
Anyway. So he's not let in. He's outside waiting for MJ. He hears a street violinist, which, by the way, this might be my favorite fucking character in the movie. This street violinist is fucking adorable.
She's amazing.
Absolutely demolishing the classic Spider-Man theme song from the old cartoon, which I love how that's kind of like entered the cultural ephemera to the point where it's integrated into the score of the MCU movies. Like it's so cool.
Can I say, I know this is a Spider-Man show, but like when the orchestral score played the 60s theme for the MCU, I openly wept.
And
if they don't do the same thing for the X-Men animated series theme,
yes,
when they make X-Men,
because it's so iconic,
they're committing a war crime.
Yeah, like, well, and I think that's the one thing, like, because we've talked about this before. You think about like, okay, what do you do MCU? What do you do for X-Men or whatever? And there is no better way to get people of our generation sold on your X-Men movie, but you have to treat it like the fucking Rocky theme in Creed. You hold on to that thing till like the climax, and then you whip it out. And then whatever's happening, I don't give a fucking shit. I'm into it.
You're losing it. Yeah.
Especially if you hold on to like, because that's the other thing. It's like I would if they were asking me to do an X-Men movie, it's like you treat Wolverine like Jaws. You hold on, totally. He's there, but you hold on to him. You don't see him do anything until like the last act. And then you have that X-Men theme, and you're like fucking in. You're getting everybody's money. People are.
I like that idea.
Shitting money in their seats.
Yes.
So he sees MJ leave the theater, sees her new boyfriend, who we don't know who he is yet, but he is dreamy. Right. Let's be fair, the boy's dreamy.
Oh, big time.
And then he sees cop cars drive by because again. New York is a nightmare here, and
there's cops. Yeah, but I also love that where it's like, there's what I want, cops.
Yep.
Yeah, can't have it. Got to be Spider-Man.
Yeah.
It's like the bats. It's like every time Batman wants to do something, and then bats, and he's like, "Oh, I can't have it."
Be Batman.
Gotta be Batman.
And by the way, listen, Batman has the time to get laid, and that guy doesn't have any powers.
Oh,
so
no, Batman lays the pipe. There's no question about it. Because he's Bruce Wayne at least a couple hours a day.
Yes.
He's always got to be courting girls. It's not like it's not like after the date is over, he's like, "Well, I'm getting tired."
Yeah.
No, he sleeps with them and then he's like, "I'm getting kind of tired. You should probably get out of here." And he gives them the Jerk Jeter package. Here's your little commemorative plates and stuff. Get out.
And now I gotta go be Batman.
Now I gotta be Batman.
So he goes after the follow cops. We get another classic shirt open in the alley. Yes. Another trailer shot with the suit underneath there. But as he's swinging after the cops, his web stopped working, which I thought, which was cool because again, that was something I liked in like the old cartoons or in the comics when his web shooters run out. Because then it's like, oh shit, what do you do now? Like that's your go-to thing. Like what do you do now? He falls far, by the way. This is something we're going to talk about. Like he's losing his powers. Not all of them, clearly, because you'd be a bug on a windshield.
Dead. Yeah. No, there's no question. Because he's always falling from like 10 stories. There's no way he wouldn't die every single time.
Which, by the way, if my web stopped working, I'm going to start swinging closer to the ground just in case.
Yeah. No.
So anyway, he has to take the elevator down. I love this. This is also a more recent example of this type of like Spider-Man doing the everyday thing. I love the fast travel on the Spider-Man game is him taking the subway and sometimes just being on the subway. And I fucking love that shit. I think
amazing.
It's great. So he's riding down the elevator with Hal Sparks.
Who auditioned to play Spider-Man in the last movie.
I think things worked out for the best. I think they worked out for the best. We'll get into another potential Spider-Man that I actually do think would have been like, oh, that would have been better, but whatever. Hal mentions that it looks uncomfortable, and then Peter, I think this is the first time Peter's actually had an opportunity to open up about being Spider-Man. So he's like, it rides up in the crotch.
Yeah, that's like a real Spider-Man moment.
Yes.
That's one of those things.
And by the way, we talked a little about Tobey struggled a little bit with the funnier stuff in the previous movie. He does really well in this scene. Like his timing and stuff really works. Peter's dragging what's left of his moped home, and of course he has to pass a wall of just all of MJ's faces.
All of MJ.
Again, just a great visual, like, oh, fuck, man, the universe is just punishing the fuck out of Peter Parker.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because, like, Ock telegraphs what the whole thing is at the dinner scene when he says, if you keep something as complicated as love stored up inside, it'll make you sick. End of story. Mm-hmm. That's what it is. He's keeping the fact that he's in love with Mary Jane to himself. He's not telling her how he feels, so his body is betraying him. That's why his powers don't work. Boom, nailed it.
Yep.
He could fix all of this. The whole thing is his fault. All of this is his responsibility. No, all he has to do is be honest. It's why the play that Mary Jane's in is The Importance of Being Earnest.
Yep.
All he has to do is be honest with the people he loves. Harry Osborn, instead of saying, your dad's a Green Goblin. He tried to kill me, and he killed himself by accident. He says either nothing or the most damning answer to an honest question I've ever heard. There's no, like, all he has to do is be honest, and he won't do it. And it's like,
will say I'm not sure I agree with you that he should be honest with Harry. I'm not sure it would work out in his favor.
Oh, no. And only because cosmically, destiny-wise, he must become the Green Goblin. But, like, I think that at least he'd be in a more... By the time 3 comes out and he's like, you should have seen this coming, Pete. I'm like, really
100% should have. And also, I think this movie gets a little bit of a pass because this is mass pop culture wise. This is the first time we really get with the hero won't reveal a secret. But now that we're almost 20 years later and we've seen it a bunch. We can cut to the
chase.
It's one of those like, you realize that you not telling Mary Jane has not kept her from getting kidnapped multiple times.
Exactly.
So maybe just fucking tell her.
maybe get laid too.
Like, yeah, you know what I mean? See what Betty's doing. Anyway.
Yeah.
So she's Elizabeth Banks, for crying out loud.
Oh my God. Well,
Peter tries to call MJ, who she doesn't pick up. Which MJ, this is one of those that like it's kind of like when you watch Breaking Bad and everybody's like giving a lot of shit to Skylar, and it's like, no, you realize Skylar's the right one here, right? Like,
yes, no, MJ is 100%. Like, she's relatable. I get it. That's a great scene.
If anything, she's being too patient with Peter.
Totally. No, because she's in love with him. She's like, you can't help it. It's like that. There's a line in a Superman comic where I think it's All-Star Superman, where when he's asked why he loves Lois Lane so much, like why her out of everyone, he says, well, Lois, there's always something that everyone always has something they can't help.
Yep. Yeah, there's the one thing I can't help. Yeah, great. All-Star Superman's so fucking good.
Yeah. But Mary Jane's like, yeah, you are toxic, you are unreliable, you're a dweeb, and you hurt my feelings every day, and I'm in love with you.
Yep. So when she doesn't pick up, Peter unloads. He unloads his feelings about who wants to be Spider-Man. And this is something too that I feel like if you were to do this Spider-Man trilogy now, they probably would sit on Green Goblin for later.
Yeah.
And I understand why, because
they have.
They have, yeah, and because it is a little bit tricky, and he's a big deal. But I think it ended up being really smart for them, because I think the drama between Peter and MJ doesn't work unless you've already had a villain that figured it out, and it went very badly.
Yes.
And so it kind of like it justifies Peter to an extent.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
So he admits everything on the dead line. Really good scene. Tobey Maguire does a good job with it. So now we get to the dawn of Doc Ock. We get to the probably the most unsafe science demonstration ever to have ever happened.
It's just, I mean, I love that loft that they're in. But
yeah, it's wildly irresponsible.
Yeah, totally. There's no safety precautions made whatsoever, and there's really no like rhyme or reason to it either. I'm making cheap renewable energy using this element. Why? For whom?
Yeah.
What is happening?
And we also talked a little bit about this with the Green Goblin, where like it's all about the renewable energy, but there's so many other crazy advancements going on just to get to that. You're like, time out. Well, talk to me about your arms and AI, and you figured out AI. Like, what?
Right?
Hold on.
Yeah. Well, yeah. These arms allow me to do the thing I'm really doing. Well, wait. What about the arms?
Pause on the arms real quick.
Well, they're all sentient. What? They're sentient? Yeah. No. Well, I created a device that inhibits sentience. What? You know, these are all. Every character in this movie can't see the forest for the trees. Like, Peter can't see that he should be Spider-Man. Ock can't see that he's already achieved his legacy.
Incredible stuff. Like, yeah, why aren't you just having the AI build the thing for you instead of just you endangering yourselves? Yeah, just to have the arms do it because they're AI, and they clearly want to. We find out later they're way into this idea.
Right.
But I love the reporter, like, that's basically like, Professor Octavius, can you give us some exposition right now about how the arms work and what keeps them from controlling your mind? Because that will be very important later in the movie.
Yep.
And I'd be remiss to not mention the cheesy dad rubber band joke. Like, did somebody lose a bunch of 20s rolled in a rubber band because we found the rubber band?
I love that line. I thought that was cute. It really endears yourself to him, right?
Well, and I think the reason you love it is because Alfred Molina is fucking fantastic, and he's able to find. He really brings this character to life in a really really excellent way, which is another thing, like we've expressed before, we're doing this show because No Way Home's coming out, and right now it looks like a lot of these villains will show up. And the idea of William Dafoe's Green Goblin interacting with Alfred Molina's Doc Ock is really appealing.
Yes. Oh my God. Yeah,
just
can you
sharing
imagine
a
if they
scene.
didn't kill everybody at the end of every movie and they made a Sinister Six?
Well, and it's tougher for me, and we're jumping way ahead, but it was tough for me for Doc Ock because, like, classically, Norman bites it in the comics in that exact way.
Yeah.
When I saw Doc Ock in this movie, I was like, Sinister Six, baby. And then at the end of the movie, I was like, what?
Yeah, I'm like, oh, all right, doing this. We're gonna Batman them. Okay.
Yeah, this is back when we were like, oh, these movies need closure. Now, fuck closure. Who needs closure? We'll make you sit through 3 hours of Dune for all the build-up part. Anyway. So we just talked about the wildly crazy achievement that the arms are before we even get to the creating a miniature sun with zero protection, no shielding.
Also, is it a sun? Because if it's a sun, even if it were only that big, it would burn everyone in the building.
Yes, it would probably destroy most of that block. Also,
yeah. Plus, it would have gravity.
Jumping ahead. So despite all of Otto's like, Peter, you dipshit, I've figured everything out. I've got this on lock. He sure as fuck doesn't. He fucks up real bad. And what they say is it's magnetic, so it's pulling in metal. And it's like, wouldn't it just be gravity? Wouldn't it just be pulling all the things in? Like, why magnetic?
Well, because I need to have it not pull everyone in immediately. I need to.
Yeah, we need to.
I do love that shot where he holds his hand up and he says, "It's only a spike," and then his watch comes off.
Yeah, the watch comes off. Also, the line delivery of the power of the sun on the palm of my hand. Also, side note, one of the other scientists is Daniel Day Kim. Probably one of the most beautiful scientists ever, just randomly in one scene.
Yeah.
But yeah, the watch comes out. The way that's illustrated, the necklaces coming off, all that stuff is fucking great. So I also like the line when Otto like it's like an ad spot where like, I'd like to thank Oscorp for providing the tritium, and you can tell Otto Octavius fucking hates Oscorp. He hates Harry. He hates Oscorp.
Yeah, I love that. It's
Which is, if you've ever done an ad read for the show, you know that energy. You're like, all right, grit your teeth and bear it.
Yeah.
So there's a spike, and this is another thing. Alfred Molina is very likable as Otto, but he definitely has a hubris problem because not only did he overestimate his skills here, he holds on to this way too long. Spider-Man Peter clocks the problem immediately. He's like, oh fuck, I'm Spider-Maning the fuck out of this. And instead of letting Spider-Man save the day, Otto slaps him away with the arms and is like, it's not a problem, which ends up immediately leading to his wife being killed by, I guess, like the
glass.
It's pulling in the metal
on the
doors.
Windows.
Yeah,
and
but
it
then
causes all the
glass to shatter. Whatever, she dies.
I love it because like she dies. Right? There's if you want to teach people about like continuity direction and editing. Watch this movie because like there's a lot of that where like Peter's like that you could tell there's shots out of sequence like when Mr. Aziz pulls off Peter's sticker and like so there's residue on the helmet like you'll see later his helmet doesn't have the residue on it yet like they didn't do that with this. Rosie gets hit in the face with glass and then they open like they have her wheeled out on a gurney, no visible scarring. I'm like, now obviously not because it's a PG movie.
Yeah, because if Sam Raimi did what he would, if he went to Evil Dead mode, it's like
she
that would be a nightmare.
She would have had glass in her face.
Yeah.
We see her reflection in a blade of in a shard of glass. You see her screaming. Great shot, but she's hit. Also, she's killed by glass. Otto would have been. The arms protect him from the glass.
They do smart stuff with the arms too. There's later when cops are shooting at him and you see the arms are blocking the bullets, and it's like, cool. That tracks
totally. Oh yeah.
So and also I like that how Peter saves Harry, who's in the middle of a full blown tantrum.
He's stamping his feet, he's waving his arms.
And also, again, this is just Harry's in line with J. Jonah Jameson, where it literally doesn't matter whatever Spider-Man does.
I don't care.
Yeah, I'm going to hate you forever.
Yeah.
And one of these visuals that's burned in my brain is because it's just a classic comic. I don't even know if it's from a specific comic, but it looks like it's from a comic panel when Peter's pulling out the cables and the sparks are flying and everything. It just looks so fucking cool.
Yep.
And now we get to where we talked a little bit about with Green Goblin's birth. That's where a little bit of that Evil Dead snuck in. Ooh, baby, does Sam Raimi really cut loose here?
Yeah.
We cut to a surgery theater where the doctors are discussing removing the arms. And like classic slasher movie victims, they're way too glib about it. The one doctor's like, anybody here take shop class?
And they are all like... Yeah, kills the whole room. They're all like, ha ha ha.
Clearly has no idea that he's just entered a horror movie.
Yep. Yep. Also, I just noticed, like, this dude has the most brilliant blue eyes I've ever seen in my life. And I'm just like, what is up with this? The doctor.
Yeah,
it's just and you know what it is? They're like, well, we're covering his face. We want somebody who's like, who really, I don't know, emotes. I notice it every time. I'm like, this dude has the bluest eyes of an adult man I've ever seen.
This son of a bitch has such blue eyes.
He has such blue eyes. I'm lost in the ocean that is his eyes. Just so weird.
The arms wake up and they are a full-on fucking nightmare. They butcher these people. Like one straight up gets speared by one of the arms.
Yeah, some of them get off easier than others. Like
that is very true.
Yeah.
I also like the little one of the doctors pulls up a chainsaw to fight it off, which I get why it's there, Sam Raimi, but also why is that there? Like, why are you?
He was going to use there's a straight up chainsaw, and I love it. Just big chainsaw shot from Army of Darkness. Good stuff.
I also like that how much personality they have. Obviously, the arms are big and bulky and scary in the sequence, but then when Otto wakes up, the one comes out with this little like robot fingies and like lifts up the thing, and they did such good work to have the arms have their own personality. As of this recording, they've just dropped some like behind the scenes shots of No Way Home, and it looks like they are also using practical arms there, which is like thank God. Like I know it's not going to be. I'm just being candid. I know it's not going to be what I want, but it's not going to be the same as it is here. But like at least you're fucking trying. Like I appreciate that. They
did a nice blend of puppets and CG, and you can tell where. It still holds up. I think it still holds up. There's all the wide shots where the arm's just losing it off his back.
Yeah.
It has to be CG, and it looks really good. I don't know. I just think it looks dope. I remember when they released like just the teaser posters. There was just that one shot of Alfred Molina as Doc Ock facing away. You see the arms. You see that like they painted like this yellow kind of on them as like a.
I like that kind of like almost like an industrial like warning yellow. It's a great touch. It's such a great touch, and it's like I love it, and it's just keep it. Ugh. Good stuff. So he leaves the hospital. He fucks up a taxi cab. And we cut ahead a little bit. He's at an abandoned pier, and he's really considering like, I should just kind of call it quits. I think. Exactly. And I feel like that's fair. He is totally indirectly responsible, kind of directly responsible for his wife's death. Yeah. And also the arms he made just murdered a whole room full of people. Yeah. This is where he realizes the arms are communicating to him, and they're actively talking to him, and they feed. And again, this is all Alfred Molina's acting. The impression I get is they're feeding into his ego. Yeah. So I feel like there's a little bit of feedback. There's AI there, but there's also whatever he's got going on. Totally. And he says, he's like, I couldn't have miscalculated. Bitch, you sure did. And he's like, the real crime would be to not finish what we started. And he establishes he needs money, which is a great explanation of why the fuck he'd be robbing a bank.
Yeah, because we need him to rob a bank. What exactly is he going to use this money to get? Like, how is he gets like where he gets these huge like boxes of equipment? What is he ordering from?
Yeah, who's he talking to? What's his Amazon password? How are we not tracking him?
What's the delivery address? Is it the broken pier on the end? The end of this one broken dock on the end of the pier. I assume like headcanon, it's AIM. Advanced Idea Mechanics or something.
That'd be cool.
Like
that. That'd be really cool. I also kind of like how I think this works better than like in Batman movies. It's like, how are the cops a non-factor here? And it's like, no, I could see the NYPD going, fuck that. We're not going to deal with that.
Oh yeah, seeing that pier, they're like, oh no, no. That place is crawling with homeless people. I'm not going to deal with that.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that. Anyway. So now we get our first Spidey versus Ock fight at the bank. We start with Joel McHale at the bank playing a very Joel McHale character. They're trying to refinance May's home, and he's just being a real prick about it to the point where they're not even going to get the toaster because they don't have enough money. And they count. I love the bit. I love how much of a wimp Joel McHale's banker is. May tries to kick Peter, ends up kicking
McHale.
banker, Joel McHale.
Yeah.
And for some reason, this little old woman's kick is enough to like decimate this poor guy. He's like, it hurts so much.
Yeah. No, I don't know.
Maybe she's used to like kicking Peter, and now that Peter's Spider-Man, he needs a little bit more oomph to get his attention.
Yeah, a little more oomph. It could be that. I think it's that he did because he says "ow" like that at least 3 times, maybe 4, and I think it's that the first time he did it, it made Sam Raimi laugh his ass off.
Yes.
And so he's like, every time that you get hit or touched, give me the ow.
Do that ow. Yeah, because later he tries to grab a coin and Aunt May slaps his hand and it's the same ow.
Same ow. He tries to steal a gold doubloon because apparently they like must have unearthed a pirate ship at some point.
That's part of the backstory. That's in the 2.1 version. That's part of the 8 extra minutes.
Yes, the 8 extra minutes, which I do have on DVD. And
I have as well. I did just full disclosure. I decided
watched the original one.
Yeah, I just watched the original one as well. Although there were scenes I was like, oh, I guess that must be in the 2.1 one because it's not in this one, but I remember it.
JJ wearing the suit, for example.
And for me, we'll talk about it later. MJ's friend, like I remember her having a scene and she kind of doesn't, and it's like, oh, that's in the 2.1 version, which is fine.
Yeah, MJ's friend, by the way, Vanessa Ferlito, who is great, and
she's from Death Proof.
Death Proof, yes.
She's very good.
Yep.
So Otto opens what is very clearly a CGI bank vault door.
Oh my god! Have you noticed? I noticed it every time now. Where when it's CG, Otto uses his real arms so that like it telegraphs to the CG department where his arms are going and what they're doing. Like
that's interesting. I didn't notice that. That's interesting.
Like when he's taking the bank vault off, he's like doing it. He's like pretending to rip it off himself.
Yeah.
And it's like what? But I also kind of like it because it's almost like Phantom Limb, where he's like, my arms are doing it. They're attached to my brain. I feel like I should be using my arms to rip this bank vault off.
Yep.
But I'm not. So I'm okay with it. But I also it works. It works. Yeah.
Also, props to he's wearing the full costume here, but props to Alfred Molina for being willing to be shirtless for like it's always a weird creative decision. Like, why is Ock shirtless so much in this movie?
He takes his shirt off a lot. I don't know. And he did not take the Kumail Nanjiani workout he got for Eternals.
He did not, which is it's fine. Although
I'm glad of it. I'm like, Otto is not ripped. He's like one of the few heavy set villains.
Yeah, he's not. But I do like his costume here with the fedora, like real bank robber.
Classic bank robber. He's got the fedora, the trench coat. That fight is awesome. Spider-Man looks great.
It's great. He's throwing the gold doubloons we were talking about earlier. Peter's dodging, and again, it's a moment where they think it's the how would Spider-Man move? How would he react? He webs one of the bags back at him. It's all really creatively choreographed and put together.
Yeah.
And also one of this Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, not a lot of zingers. He gets a zinger here. Here's your change. It works.
Love it. It works fine. I was like, yay. Yeah, no, every time. I was counting them in the theater. I'm like, where's the quips?
Yeah. And then Ock is like straight up trying to crush Peter's head. And it looks rough. It's like, oh man, Peter's going to pop like a zit. And but he webs the tables and apparently pulls them very hard because one of those tables straight up knocks Otto through the building, like outside. My God.
Yes.
Otto kidnaps May because of course the women in Peter's life are. It's interesting how the movie does this, where they damsel distress the women in Peter's lives, but you don't really feel it because the May and MJ are so fucking sassy.
Yeah.
And so genuinely confrontational with the villains. It doesn't feel like they're just, oh, woe is me. They're like, no, fuck you. If I get close enough, I'm going to claw your fucking eyes out, dude.
That's right. Yeah. I will say this just reminded me that I don't think I've ever seen a movie with more screaming women than in this movie.
Yes.
Just every chance they get, a woman is screaming, and if now that you've heard it, you'll notice it 1,000 times. Ock goes outside, a woman screams like she's watching a murder, and all she's seen is she's looking at Doc Ock. She can't. The idea of a man with 4 mechanical arms just cracks her entire vision of reality, and she just falls apart. She screams her head off, gets everyone's attention. The woman that is just like on the phone.
Yeah, inside the building.
The most self-indulgent Raimi scene I've ever seen.
Yes, because and it's interesting how the movie goes out of its way to treat Otto like a movie monster, like he's fucking Godzilla.
Yeah.
And that was another woman that people were like, "Is that Gwen Stacy?" But like I guess he's got like stabby things on his
Yeah.
tentacles. They stab through the wall. And
What practical application are they supposed to have? But okay.
whatever. Yeah, exactly. Especially the blade one. It's like, is that an
Blade one.
attachment he
Right.
did later? Like, anyway.
I ordered that along with all the other stuff.
Yeah. But like she runs from like one corner to the other corner straight to the camera, screams like
Into
old
the
school.
camera, like
And
Fay
also,
Ray.
she wears an inexplicably tight top. It's like, what?
No, there's no excuse.
This is definitely a lot of this movie. He's 60s Spider-Man. A lot of female characters' outfits are 90s. Like what they were wearing in 90s comics. Jim Lee, 90s comics. Jim Lee,
Yes.
Bob Liefeld. Anyway,
That's true. Yeah.
so now
the theme, Ox theme,
yes,
because you get that in that, and it's.
Yeah.
I hope we get it in No Way Home.
they've got to bring
Right?
back some of those old themes. Again, it might be too cluttered, but like,
Yeah.
it'd be great.
It's too good. It's just like that orchestral, all the tubas and bassoons, just so good. And every time.
Listen, and Mike Giacchino is great, but I think we can all agree his greatest skill is aping other people's scores.
Totally.
Yeah, especially recent work, and that might be producer decisions and not his. To be fair, to be fair. But the Doctor Strange score is just the Sherlock score from the show.
Yes, it is. What a disappointment.
It is. Anyway, we're not gonna go there.
Well, here's
but
the thing. We'll see. Well, no, I think this is the movie that killed Raimi and Danny Elfman's relationship, right?
Yes. Yeah, which I think is why we get more needle drops in this song, is that was a way to kind of like paper over some of the missing stuff.
Yeah.
Which is it's interesting how Danny Elfman always seems to have these falling out. He had a falling out with Tim Burton. He had a falling out with Sam Raimi.
Sounds like he's just a really followed guy.
To be fair, he's still raking in that Simpsons money. He doesn't need to make friends.
I don't blame you there.
He's still got that Batman soundtrack money now, the Spider-Man soundtrack money, and the Simpsons. This motherfucker doesn't need to work another day in his fucking life.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true.
So the fight segues from the bank onto the building. Great great use of the arms, great use of the webbing. Aunt May falls at one point. Is it her umbrella or a cane? She hooks onto
an umbrella.
She hooks onto like an angel, and then like lands on a ledge and thanks the angel. But then Ock grabs her again. Spider-Man's going to do one of his slingshot maneuvers, and Otto has a knife in his arm for whatever reason. And I like, and I like how Aunt May's like, not on my watch.
On you.
Yeah.
So
slaps
cute.
the shit out of him with the cane. Peter's able to save her. This is a line that always confused me. Like, Peter's like, they land on the street. He's like, we showed him. And she's like, what do you mean we? And it's like, is she trying to say you did all the work? Is she trying to say
she did all the work?
She did all the work. All right.
Yeah. She's like, what do you mean we?
What do you mean we? And then
all the girls, take me, Spider-Man.
Yeah, exactly. And this goes back to your point where it's like, guy, if you just got on your shit, you'd be fine.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fish in the sea. It doesn't need to be MJ. You're
have
fucking
to be.
Spider-Man. And I'm not saying, I feel like there's a way to misunderstand what I'm saying, to like abuse the power of Spider-Man to get women. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, clearly the women are attracted to something you got going on there.
Yeah.
And that's you, dude.
And that's you. That's a natural thing. That's all you.
That's all you, my guy. It's your natural confidence as Spider-Man. You need to tap into that shit, my dude.
Seriously.
So I think that's a good place to wrap up episode 1 of our Spider-Man 2 discussion. This is, of course, going to be a 2-parter. Tune in. This is a Patreon show. If you're listening to this as like we've dropped this for free as a promotion on our normal OSA channel, please go to Patreon to listen to part 2 of this discussion.
Yes.
Patreon.com/onlystupidanswers. If you're already here as a patron, God bless you. Thank you for being a part of it. We really appreciate you. Helps keep the lights on. And Sal, just as a quick reminder, where can they find you?
You can always find me here on YouTube at youtube.com/comicpop or our other channel, Comic Pop Returns. We also have a podcast. It's not too dissimilar from this, over on Spotify, iTunes, all that stuff, called Elseworlds Exchange, where you can catch us there as well. So check us out.
Please go give all that some love, and we will see you all next week. Bye, everybody.